There's no question about the fact that we learn from our experience. Though, do we actually learn from our experience as much as we could to benefit us in terms of the things that we do in the future? And in just a moment, I'll hopefully show you that we don't, though we could. When we set out to undertake to do something, it falls into two basic categories. Either we can set out to fix a problem, or we can set out to promote growth of something. If we set out to fix a problem, it may be that as we pursue resolution of that problem, we progress well over time, but then as we get closer and closer to the goal, progress slows down. And over time, when the progress slows over time, we may in fact be willing to settle for less. I set out to lose 20 pounds, and the first 10 were real easy. So, but after that, it gets more and more difficult. So maybe 10 was enough. Let me stop with that. It may be that in attempting to fix this problem, I actually do more than I needed to do, and I overshoot the goal, and then I have to expend energy to back up to where the goal actually was. Or I may pursue things where, when, as a result of my actions, I get to a point where the goal isn't there anymore, it's moved. And when I take additional action to achieve the goal, it's not there anymore, it's moved again. So it's sort of like riding on a pendulum, shooting at another pendulum, both of them being in motion, and things simply seem to oscillate back and forth endlessly. Or I undertake action to fix a problem, and that when in fixing that problem, I actually create another problem elsewhere. Or I undertake to fix the problem, and I think I have fixed the problem, and things get better. Then a day later, a week later, a month later, the problem comes back again. So that I'm, as it turns out, I'm actually treating the symptoms rather than solving the underlying cause of the problem itself. So that I can in fact be shifting the burden so that I'm dealing with the causes but not addressing the problem, and it ends up at times actually turning into an addiction, so that even if I manage to remove the symptoms, I would still be undertaking the same actions because I've developed an addiction to the actions themselves. And if I'm trying to promote growth, I may actually succeed in promoting growth, though it leads to decline elsewhere. Or in pursuing efforts to accomplish something partners, in time the partners actually become adversaries, as opposed to there's no longer a synergistic relationship between their efforts. They're actually getting in the way of each other's success. Or I set out to promote growth, and growth slows over time, but then as as growth occurs, it begins to get less and less over time, so I have a limit to growth. And oftentimes that limit to growth is because there are shared resources by multiple individuals or groups, so that in actually consuming those resources, they limit their collective ability to pursue future growth. Or there may be more than one limit that needs to be addressed, and when you address one, it still doesn't solve the problem because you immediately run into another limit. Or the limit itself may be in insufficient capacity, such that by the time that you realize that it's insufficient capacity that's creating the limits to growth, the opportunity has in fact evaporated. And limit if the limit is in the way for a period of time, the goal itself, one may let it slip, so that, as before, there's a willingness to settle for less. So this whole collection of activities and results actually has a structural foundation to it, which we'll cover later. And we can learn more from this, so that that when we undertake an action, we have a sense of things that we should look for to actually help us avoid unintended consequences because we have a sense of what is likely to happen. So this is, I labeled this experience unfolded. It's also generally referred to as something called systems archetypes. There are specific structures associated with each one of these situations that produces a very well-defined characteristic pattern of behavior, and we'll talk about those in other videos in the future. So hope you found this interesting. Bye.